Hello and welcome to the intermediate training class for the Clients and Policies Overview. Today's class is going to focus on the different actions that you can take while on the client or policy screen. We will be looking at items such as issuing policies in the system, policy actions such as cancellation, renewal, reinstatement, or rewriting, adding endorsements, entering quotes, creation of tasks or notes on a specific client or policy, text messaging, emailing, generating proposals and summaries in the system, as well as editing down payment options on a policy. The introductory class in this series focuses on an overview of the client and policy screen. If you need to refer back to the introduction video or any of our other training webinars or demonstration videos, you can hover over your username while in the system, go down to the support and training option on the menu. The live versions of all of our classes can be registered for under the training classes link, and you can watch any of the recorded versions of those same classes under the on-demand training link. We're going to want to view a specific client or policy record in the system, so I'm going to go first to the Contacts option from the very top navigation toolbar, and we can start with the same prospect account that we were working on in the introduction training video, Henry White. Now here we are on Henry White's contact overview page. He is currently in an active status and he is listed as a prospect in our system. We can change him into an inactive status, or we can change him over to a customer. You can also convert a customer back over to a prospect if they do not have any policies or billing information entered into the system. If we do want to convert him to a customer, we will then have billing and paying options, which will currently be grayed out while he's in a prospect status. Let's go ahead and move him over to a customer. So now Henry White is listed as an active customer in the system, and we would now have options to create bills or take payments against this account. As long as there are no bills or payments entered on the account, if I need to, I can still convert him back over to a prospect, or I can mark him off as inactive. You also have the ability to change this personal lines customer to a commercial lines customer, or to change the office location that he is assigned to. Now in our introductory training class to the Clients and Policies Overview, we walk you through the process of creating a new policy manually in the system from the toolbar. Anytime we do add a new policy to the system manually, it will go in first as a pending policy under the customer that we created on. I can click on the description link here from the pending policies list under the Policies tab in order to jump to that page. Now that we are on the pending policy screen in the system for Henry White's personal auto policy here, we can view information specific to the policy. When I'm ready to issue this policy, marking it as active in my system, I would go to the Policy Action option on the toolbar and select the Issue Policy. While our policy is still in a pending state, we will have the ability to run policy proposals, which are system generated and can pull information from the customer screen and from the details of the specific line of business that you're working on in order to populate a system generated proposal. Catalyst will automatically save copies of any policy proposals or policy summaries that you generate, and it will put those copies into the Files tab under the specific customer and policy for you automatically. In order to generate a policy proposal, we will need to have quotes entered under our pending policy. If I do not have any quotes entered into the system at this point in time, I can do so by clicking on the Add Quote option to the far right. I can enter in the quote information. The quote status I will want to have set at quoted in order to use this for my policy proposals, and we can say this has been proposed to the customer. Carrier I can select, and if they have any MGA or broker tied to them in the system, I can select them as well. If they are a subsidiary carrier linked to any parent group carrier in the system, we would see the parent carrier indicated here as well. I can put in the base premium that our commission's being calculated on, and any additional carrier fees. I can continue to click Add Carrier Fee to list as many as I might want. The selection of carrier fees comes from the location preferences. So if you need to edit this list here, you can have your system administrator do so in your location preferences. Here I'm just going to have a policy fee, and Any default amount can pre-fill, or I can enter it at this time as well. And I'll click Save to save this quote. I can continue to add additional quotes, again by clicking on the Add Quote option. And whenever I'm ready to generate a policy proposal, I can click on the Policy Proposal option from the top toolbar. Now, before we generate a policy proposal, remember to check your Policy Details tab. The proposal is only going to contain as much or as little information as you have put into the system, since it's going to pre-fill a template based on the information it can pull from the customer and from the policy that you have entered into Catalyst. So I have detail information filled out here in my Details tab. I should see this information pull onto my policy proposal, and we can click on the option in the toolbar to generate the proposal. I'm going to select the line of business that I wish to have included on my proposal. So if I have multiple pending policies in the system, I can choose more than one, and I will have to select the one quote from within each of those pending policies that I wish to have included on the proposal as well. Then I can click OK, and the system will generate the proposal. So this would be our policy proposal. I can maximize the screen here. So you'll want to make sure that your system is not blocking pop-ups from QQ Catalyst in order for your proposals and your policy summaries to generate. The customer's information has pulled in from the system. Our agency logo has pulled in from the global preferences, as well as information about our agency. The About Us section comes from the global preferences as well, so you can set that up if you haven't done so. The servicing team comes from the different agents and CSRs that you have marked on the customer, and the About Me information from each employee can pull onto the proposal as well. The policy summary is going to contain all of our coverage and policy details. And then the premium summary at the bottom will contain each of the individual lines of business that you have listed on the proposal, along with the signature page. I can decide to print or save a copy. Once I close out of this window, a copy is automatically saved under the Files tab for me under the specific customer and policy. So I can always download a hard copy of this, preview it, send it in a quick email, edit the document, or delete the document from the system. Now for the policy proposal that we had generated previously, if we're ready to send that out to the client, we can either choose to print a hard copy, or we can choose to email this to the client. If we are going to email, we have a couple different ways we can start that process. We can either select the file and click the Quick Send option in order to create a Quick Send email with the file automatically attached. The Quick Send email will pre-fill the From address that's assigned to your employee account, and it will pre-fill the To address that's entered in on the customer's contact account. I can enter in my subject. If there's any templates that we have designed that we would like to select, I can choose which office location we're looking at the templates library for, and then I can select the template from either the agency library that you have created or from the standard library that we have populated in the system for you. Anything that's highlighted in yellow was previously a merge field that we have populated based on the customer and policy that was selected in the day that the letter was generated. If I need to make any editing changes to this, I can do so. If we need to attach any additional files, I can click Add Attachment to view the Files tab for this customer or policy. I can include other attachments, and any Accord forms that are saved under this customer or specific policy that we're viewing, I can access those here as well. I can click Save, and I can click Send when I'm finished with the email. Just like with the proposals, any email that's sent from the system, a copy is automatically created and put into the Files tab specifically. If you don't see it right away, you just might need to refresh the page that you're viewing. But again, I can view or print a copy of the email, or I can resend this to the contact. Now, if the customer receives our proposal and they decide to go ahead with the quote and they want to purchase this policy, we're going to need to change it from a pending status to an active status in our system. In order to do so, we can go to the Policy Action option in the toolbar and we can select Issue Policy. If you are going to be participating in carrier downloads, you would not need to manually issue policies that are coming over from the download. The carrier download can issue the policy in your system at the time that it's processed. If I have entered quote information previously, such as the writing carrier, MGA, the premium, or the fees, I will not need to re-enter that information again. When I select the issue policy action, it's going to allow me to choose from the quotes that I had entered previously, and then the only thing I will need to specify is policy number, the effective and expiration date. I can make sure I have my terms selected correctly, and the financing option for how this policy is going to be paid for. We do cover financing options in a bit more detail in our billing and payments class, so I'm only going to touch on these briefly today, but you do have the option to indicate if this is paid in full, if it's financed through the carrier, or if it's financed through a third-party financing company. The paid in full option is going to indicate that the customer is paying for this policy premium in one lump sum payment. We're going to indicate if this is either direct bill being paid direct to the carrier. If so, we're indicating if premium is sent gross or monthly, so we're collecting our commission at a later date and time. If we need to indicate this is agency bill, we are bringing the premium payment into the agency, keeping our commission up front, and then the premium sent option is automatically set at net since we're forwarding the remainder of the premium onto the carrier. I can also select that this is financed through the carrier, in which case the billing type is always set at direct bill, and I'm just indicating if premium is sent gross or monthly. And the third-party finance option is going to allow us to select from a finance company contact that we have created and entered into our system. When we first create that contact, we're going to indicate what the default payment method is with that finance company, whether it's a direct bill or agency bill option, and the default is going to pre-fill for us down here depending on the finance company that we select. But if we need to, we can change that finance option on the fly. So if we need to change it to a different direct bill or a different agency bill method, depending on how the commission's collected or the draft is forwarded onto the carrier, we can do so at this time. I'm going to set this as paid in full, and we'll put it at direct bill, indicating that our premium is sent gross, so we're collecting our commission in one lump sum installment at a later time. And I can click OK. The system will take us through a short workflow process. Now, if we had not entered any quote information, then when we get to this workflow process, it's going to prompt us at this time to enter in who the writing carrier is, what the premium is going to be, and any carrier fees that are going to be on that policy. Since we already entered that information on the quote, it's skipping us ahead a few steps in the workflow, and we're looking to see if we have any agency fees to charge at this time. Your list of agency fees can be customized in the global preferences by your system administrator. If I don't have any agency fees to charge, I can always click next, or I can select as many that I might need to have listed. Any default amounts that we've set up in the preferences will pre-fill for us here. I can then take a look at the down payment option. We had indicated it was paid in full, so the full premium down is set in stone here. The agency fees are added on top, and we can see our total down payment that's being calculated. Now, if this total down payment is being paid directly to the carrier by the customer as we indicated, and the only thing we're collecting in the agency is our agency fees, then we can go ahead and click Next. However, if we are going to be taking in the full amount of premium into the agency, and then we're forwarding that full amount to the carrier without keeping our commission, since this is not an agency billed policy, I can check the box here to show that the premium down is due to the agency. This is going to create the corresponding bill showing that we're waiting to receive this $951 from the customer along with our agency fees, and that we would be sending the $951 on to the carrier, waiting to reconcile our commission received at a later time. If I need to edit this down payment option, I can do so. So if we set this up the way it is right now, showing that the money is being paid directly to the carrier, but later they show up in the agency with cash in hand and they want to make the payment to us and have us forward that payment or post that payment to the carrier for them, then we can always come back and edit this down payment option. Let's go to the next step in the workflow. We can calculate the agency's portion of commission. If we have a commission rule that applies to this carrier in this line of business, it can pre pre-fill for us here. Commission rules can be set up in Commission Central, and we do have a separate class that covers the setup and reconciliation process of commissions in the system. If we don't have a commission rule that's pre-filled for us here, I can edit this amount, or if the commission rule is incorrect for whatever reason, I can edit the amount for this one policy. If we needed to change that default rule, it would need to be done in Commission Central. The carrier fees are going to be listed next, and if there's any commission that we can make based on those carrier fees, we can indicate that amount here. Again, you can have a default commission rule that can pre-fill for carrier fees for this particular carrier. And the last step would be any producer commissions. If we have a producer listed on the policy that's going to be getting paid a portion of the agency's commission, we can set up their commission rules here. And again, if they have default commission rules set up in Commission Central, those commission rules can pre-fill. I currently don't have any producers listed on the policy, so let me show you really quick where you can go to edit the producers in case we didn't set them up previously. I'm going to click Finish, and I'm going to tell the system, yes, we can issue this policy. Now, if there's any amount of money to be collected from the customer, the system will prompt me if I wish to print an invoice or take a payment at this time. I can always return to the policy if I wish to take either of these actions at a later point in time. So here we are back on the policy screen, now viewing the active policy for Henry White. There are a few changes that have been made now that the policy is no longer in a pending status. Just like when we move the customer from the prospect status over to a customer, they then have billing and payment options available. When our policy is in a pending status, we have no billing and paying options. Now that we've moved it to an active status, we have the ability to edit the down payment, take a payment, create a bill, print an invoice, or issue a refund. You'll also notice that the policy proposal option has now changed into the policy summary option in the toolbar when we're viewing an active policy. The policy summary option is going to work very similarly to the policy proposal that we just saw. When we click on policy summary, it is a system-generated template. It's going to allow us to select the lines of business that we wish to include on the policy summary from our list of active, expired, or canceled policies under this customer. When the policy summary loads, we're going to see that it uses pretty much the same template that we saw in the policy proposal. It'll bring in the customer and policy information as well as our agency information. We'll see a schedule of our policies, and we'll see the policy summary including the coverage and policy detail information. Now we can either save or print a copy of this if we're ready, or we can close this out if we're done with it. A copy is automatically created and put into the Files tab, just like with the policy proposals. Some other changes you'll see to the tabs in the center. We now have a tab to track any endorsements on this policy, a tab that will show us our agency commission as it's currently being calculated on this policy, and a tab to show us our producer's commission. Now, as I mentioned before, we did not select a producer on this policy when we were setting one up, so if we need to edit the producers that are on the policy, we can go back to the Policy Info tab. Any of the information that we've entered under the Policy Info tab, we still have the ability to edit or add to. So if we scroll down to where we can see the producers, we currently have none listed. I can edit. I can also select the CSR to include on this policy, and I can also select from the producers. This will show us a list of all of our employees, and I can include anybody who's going to be getting paid commission on this policy. I can then click Save to save any changes made. If we go back to the Producers tab now, we'll now see our producers listed. If they have any default commission rules, those can pre-fill for us here. If we need to just edit the rules on this specific policy, I can click Edit here, and I can say that their commission is calculated either on the agency's portion of commission or on the actual premium and fees of the policy. Any changes we made will be reflected above, showing the amount that we owe each producer and the total that's going to be calculated. If any commission can also be calculated for our producers on the agency fees that are being charged, we can pre-fill those rules or edit those on the fly as well. If we take a look at the Billing tab, we'll now see billing information listed. Now that the policy is active, the billing can be created. Under our customer, we can see the agency fee that we're currently waiting to collect, $12. Under the carrier's commission, we can see the amount of commission that we're waiting to reconcile. We won't see anything listed under carrier premium or anything listed under producer commission as of yet. Once we reconcile that the agency has received some portion of its commission, we'll then show that our producers are owed some portion of their commission. The same goes for the carrier premium. We're not going to show that we owe any amount of premium to the carrier until we show that we've collected any premium from the customer. Now in this case, we had set up the policy as direct bill, and the customer was making that payment in full to the carrier. However, as I mentioned, if we needed to edit the down payment option to show that we're collecting the money up front and that we're forwarding the full amount to the carrier, we can go up to the bill pay option on the policy and we can select to edit the down payment. This is going to bring me back into the workflow that we saw initially when we issued the policy, where I can edit the amounts of the agency fees that we're going to be collecting, or I can edit the down payment itself, indicating by checking this box that we're collecting the $951 down payment and we're going to forward that full amount to the carrier. If I click Finish, the system will prompt me again if there's any money waiting to be collected, if we want to print an invoice, take a payment, or return to the policy. So now that I'm back on the policy, if I take a look at the billing tab, we'll notice that the amount we're waiting to collect from the customer not only includes our agency fees, but also includes the full amount of the premium down payment. Our carrier's commission is still going to show that we're waiting to reconcile $80 received. And again, we won't see anything due to the carrier as far as premium until we show we've collected it from the customer. In order to do this, I can go up top and I can select the Take a Payment option under the Bill Pay drop-down menu. The system will take me into a short workflow where I can select the bill that I wish to take a payment against, indicate if there's any agency fees to be charged at this time. I could click on Add Another Fee to list as many as I might need, and then enter the payment details. We can see the amounts broken down per each item on this bill, the original premium down payment, and our two agency fees that we had been charging for the total $963. I can indicate the payment method, and if we are including the fees with the premium in this payment, we can keep this box checked. If we need to do a direct upload of just the premium and we're collecting our fees separately, I can check the other box here for direct upload, and I can indicate the separate payment option that we received for the agency fees. I can click Finish then. So whenever we're recording a payment, the system will prompt us if we wish to print a receipt. We can click here to view the printed receipt. A copy of the receipt is automatically created and put into the Files tab for you, just like with emails. So when I click OK to return to the policy, it will redirect us to the Files tab, and I can see the receipt listed right here. Another way you can access the receipt is under the Billing tab directly. You can always print an invoice or print a receipt directly from the bill that it's associated to. So we can see here the down payment that was due and the down payment that we've received. If we go to our carrier's commission, we're still waiting to reconcile this amount since this was direct bill and not agency bill. But when we look at the carrier premium, we can now see the $951 that we are going to be sending to the carrier. This is the full amount of the premium less our agency fees that we had collected. Now when I'm ready to reconcile that the premium amount has been sent to the carrier, I can click directly on the carrier's name here to go to their reconciliation page. Here we would see all of the policies listed for this carrier that we're waiting to send out premium on, and I can indicate how much has been sent. If we need to just indicate the full amount, you can also just put a check in the box on the far left. If we have any non-policy premium to include, we can enter that information in the box here, and then we can click Finish. So the system will generate us a reconciliation report, which we can print right here anytime we're reconciling premium sent or commission received. Just like with the invoices and the receipts, you can also access the reconciliation report directly from the Billing tab under the policy. So if I do click to return to the policy, and we look under the Billing tab, specifically at the carrier premium, we can also view the reconciliation report directly from here. And you can see the balance is now at 0. I would reconcile the commission received in the same way. When I'm looking at carrier commission, I can click on the link in the carrier's name to go directly to the reconciliation page. Let's go ahead and reconcile a portion of this carrier commission that we have received. We show that there was an $80 amount due. If I needed to edit that on the fly without having to redirect back to the policy screen, I can click on the link there and I can edit from this page directly. So if I know that the commission amount should have been 12% and not 10%, I can click on the edit option. I can change the commissionable amount of the premium, or I can change the percentage or dollar amount that our commission's calculated on directly. And we'll see the new amount reflected above. I can then go ahead and click OK. So just like when we're reconciling premium sent, any amount of commission received, we can type into the Paid Now section here. Catalyst will keep track of what we've received, what we've been paid previously, and what we're still waiting to receive for a future installment. Or, as before, I can just click the box to indicate the full amount that has been received. I can then click Next. And again, if there's any non-policy commission to enter that we're receiving, we can enter that amount here and click Finish. As before, the system will generate a reconciliation statement for me, which I can view at this time, or I can return to the policy. A copy of that statement again is filed away under the carrier contact specifically, or I can access it from the billing tab under the policy specifically. Now, if the policy is endorsed at any point in time, you can download endorsements through the carrier downloads. However, if you do need to endorse the policy manually, you can also do so from the toolbar at the top. Any endorsements that you receive, either through carrier downloads or ones that you've entered manually, you will be able to track them in the Endorsements tab. If we do need to enter an endorsement manually, I'm going to click on the toolbar option, and the system will take us through a quick workflow process where we can enter information on the endorsement, such as the endorsement number, effective date, and the endorsement reason. Your list of endorsement reasons can be modified in the location preferences. I can click Finish at any point in time if this endorsement does not affect my premium. However, if there is a premium change, I can click Next. In the next step, I can indicate the amount of premium change to the base policy premium, and any additional carrier fees that I need to list on top of that, I can click on the right here to add carrier fees. The next step would be to indicate any agency fees that we may be charging at this time. If there are none, we can click Next, and then the endorsement down payment information is going to be displayed. Again, if the premium down is going to be collected by the agency and forwarded to the carrier, we can check the box to create the corresponding bill, and we can click Finish. And because the endorsement was entered manually, it is going in first in a pending status. It has not affected our grand total premium until we indicate that it has been approved. You will not need to do that with endorsements you receive via carrier downloads. Once we indicate this has been approved, I will no longer be able to edit the endorsement, but I will still have the option to view or void that endorsement. So now that our endorsement has been approved, you can see the effect on the grand total premium, and you would also see those changes made to the agency's commission or producer's commission, as well as in regards to any premium payments we would now be waiting to receive from the customer. If at any point in time I need to create any kind of notation on the policy specifically or under the customer specifically, you have the ability to add a note from the toolbar. If I click on the Add a Note option from the toolbar, we'll be presented with a quick pop-up window where I can type in the important information on my note. This is going to be a permanent comment that's added into your system, and it's currently associated to the policy that I'm viewing. I can view any notes under the Tasks and Notes tab. As I mentioned, these are permanent comments, so we cannot delete or edit the note, but I can add additional comments to it, or I could even flag it as an important note. If we do flag a note as important, it will create an indicator in the top right corner of the screen, so no matter where I am on this policy, I can view that there is an important note drawing my attention, and I can click on the icon to see what that note is. If I need to remove this from important notes at any point in time, I can do so. When I'm viewing the customer directly, you can also add notes to the customer's account, and I can also view those notes under the Tasks and Notes tab or specifically under their activity log. Notes can be entered from the activity log as well, and I can choose if I wish to associate them to a policy or mark them as important notes. Under the Tasks and Notes tab, I also have the ability to sort my notes either by the due date, the date we created the note, or the policies that they are associated to. I can also narrow down from the notes that are displayed by typing into the search bar, and you can search by any of the criteria that you see here, including who created the note, the policy it's attached to, the information that's actually typed into the note, or the date that the note was created. Also under the Tasks and Notes tab, you'll find any tasks that have been created and associated to this client or policy. A new task can be created from the Action toolbar at the top of the screen whenever we're viewing a specific contact or policy, or you can also create a new task from the very bottom toolbar wherever you are at in the system. When I click on the new task option, it will immediately associate this task to any contact or any policy that I am viewing currently. I can give my task a subject, type in any details. I can change the associated contact or policies or the employees that this task is assigned to. I can also assign multiple employees to the task as well. I can set the start date and due date for this task, and if I wish to have a system reminder, I can check the box here and I can set the reminder date and time. The status will allow me to indicate if this task is in progress or completed or not started yet. Any completion percentage that I type in here will also affect the status that we've indicated. When I'm satisfied with the task creation, I can click OK. And we can now see the task that is saved here under this specific client or policy. I can see information on the task, and when ready, I can mark this task as completed. You'll have the ability, just like with the notes, to sort by the due date, the status, or the priority, or to type into the search box to narrow down the tasks that are displayed. I can even toggle to show my completed tasks or not. Now when I'm on a specific contact, I am viewing the tasks that are associated to that contact. So if I'm on a customer, I'm seeing any tasks that are associated to that customer or any of their policies. If I'm viewing an employee, I'm going to see any tasks that that employee is currently assigned to. There is a widget on your dashboard as well that can track tasks. Any tasks that show up as red are past due, and I can toggle the widget to show only tasks related to myself or tasks related to all users. And I can view a list of only my own tasks anytime by hovering over my username and viewing the My Tasks option. Now that's going to cover everything that we wanted to get into in the intermediate class for Clients and Policies Overview. Remember, there is an advanced class in this series as well. You can view any of our class demonstrations or register for any of our live sessions by hovering over your username and going to the Support Training option on the menu here. The links to the live sessions and to the recorded sessions are right here on this menu.